Captain Max Reynolds was having a particularly crappy day, even by the standards of a human cargo pilot operating in the ass end of the galaxy. The kind of day where your ship gets impounded for unpaid docking fees, your cargo of genuine Andromedian silk, actually synthetic knockoffs from the Orion black markets, gets confiscated, and the station's AI security system keeps addressing you as criminal element 7293B. "Look, just let me access my accounts," Max pleaded with the terminal, wondering if computer systems could derive pleasure from human suffering. "I've got the credits, they're just temporarily inaccessible." The terminal beeped unsympathetically. Behind him, a line of irritated aliens had formed two Varaxians with their characteristic blue tentacles twitching impatiently, a Garulian merchant whose middle head kept checking the time, and something gelatinous that was slowly dissolving the floor. "Maybe if I just," Max casually slipped a decryption chip into the terminal's side port while pretending to scratch his head. Every smuggler worth their contraband knew the standard override codes for these outdated Helix 9 terminals. The screen flickered, then displayed access granted, security protocol alpha suspended. "Hey, still got it," Max muttered, quickly navigating to clear his finds. But something caught his eye, a blinking folder labeled Classification, Restricted Earth Containment Directive. Earth? As in the Earth? The mythical human homeworld that supposedly didn't exist? Every human child grew up with the same explanation. Humans had evolved on various colony worlds after being seeded by precursor species. Earth was just a myth, a collective racial memory. Yet here was an official file about it. Max couldn't help himself. He copied the file. The terminal suddenly flashed red. Unauthorized access detected. Security breach level Omega. Well, shit. Alarms blared throughout the station. The gelatinous alien behind him made a horrified bubbling sound and rapidly oozed away. Max bolted for the nearest exit, barreling through startled aliens of various anatomies. He needed to reach his ship before station security locked down completely. His hand instinctively went to his communicator. "Pixel, start the engines, we've got a situation." A crackling, slightly glitchy voice responded, "Define situation, Captain." "Is this the good kind where we unexpectedly profit, or the bad kind where entities want to disassemble our molecular structure?" "The second one," Max panted, ducking under a closing security gate. "Definitely the second one." As Max reached the docking bay, his ship, the Lucky Mistake, a retrofitted Centaurian freight hauler with more illegal modifications than legal parts, was already humming to life. Its boarding ramp descended just as station security drones rounded the corner. "Halt, criminal element 7293B. Resistance will increase punitive measures by 47.3%. Max dived onto the ramp. "Go, go, go, go." The ship lurched upward, scraping against the bay doors as they frantically closed. The Lucky Mistake shot into space, leaving behind a very angry station security chief and several perforated docking clamps. Once safely in the darkness of space, Max slumped into the pilot's chair, catching his breath. So Pixel's voice came through the ship's speakers, somehow managing to sound amused despite being an AI. "What exactly did you steal this time that has 3 patrol vessels in pursuit?" Max looked out the viewport at the rapidly approaching ships. "I think I just discovered the biggest secret in the galaxy." 2 days, 6 hyperspace jumps, and 1 extremely nauseating trip through an unstable wormhole later, Max thought he'd finally lost his pursuers. He sat in the dimly lit cockpit of the Lucky Mistake, scrolling through the stolen files while nursing a cup of something that the ship's synthesizer insisted was coffee. "This is insane," he muttered. According to these records, Earth not only exists, but the Galactic Council has been actively suppressing all knowledge of it for over 3 centuries. Pixel's avatar, a floating blue cube that occasionally glitched into a trapezoid, materialized beside him. Perhaps there's a reasonable explanation. Like maybe humans are universally despised? Having met you, I find this hypothesis credible. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Max replied dryly. But seriously, this is big. It says Earth was placed under Containment Protocol Alpha in the year 2157. That's right after humans supposedly made first contact with galactic society. First query, why would the Council hide an entire planet? Second query, why are you investigating instead of running to the farthest corner of the galaxy? This behavior contradicts your established self-preservation protocols. Max grinned. Because my digitally challenged friend, secrets this big are worth a fortune to the right buyers. I'm thinking retirement money. No more hauling questionable cargo through Garulian inspections. The ship's proximity alarm suddenly blared. Unidentified vessel approaching, Pixel announced. Correction. Council Enforcer class vessel approaching at high velocity. Correction, we are completely screwed. Before Max could react, the ship shuddered violently as a tractor beam locked on. Disengaging engines to prevent structural damage, Pixel reported. Also, I would like to register formal disapproval of your life choices. The lucky mistake was pulled into the much larger vessel's hangar bay. As the boarding ramp extended with a hiss, Max grabbed his blaster from under the console. That won't be necessary, Captain Reynolds, came a precise, clipped voice. Standing at the bottom of the ramp was the strangest Archivian Max had ever seen. Archivians were generally known as the galaxy's librarians, meticulous, four-armed humanoids with skin the color of old parchment. This one wore the distinctive uniform of the Galactic Archives, but something about his demeanor screamed bureaucrat with a weapon. Agent Krill, Special Enforcement Division, the Archivian introduced himself. I've been tracking your data breach since you so inelegantly hacked our terminal. Max kept his blaster raised. I'm not really into being arrested today. Try again tomorrow. Put that down before you hurt yourself, Krill sighed. If I wanted you detained, I wouldn't be standing here alone, would I? We need to talk about the files you accessed. We? Max asked skeptically. The Archives Division. Specifically, those of us concerned with certain historical accuracies. Max slowly lowered his weapon. So Earth actually exists. That information is classified under Council Directive 7729X, which he just confirmed by invoking security protocol rather than dismissing the claim, Pixel helpfully translated, voice echoing from Max's communicator. Basic interrogation analysis suggests Agent Krill is operating outside official channels. The Archivian's eyes narrowed at the communicator. Your AI has an unusual personality matrix. Manufacturing defect, Max shrugged. Can't afford an upgrade. Offensive, Pixel commented. Krill's four hands simultaneously straightened various parts of his uniform. Here's the situation, Captain. You've accessed restricted information that could destabilize galactic society. Protocol dictates I should erase said information along with the brains that processed it. Max gripped his blaster tighter. However, Krill continued, certain inconsistencies in the Earth containment records have concerned me for some time. I've been looking for a way to investigate without triggering internal alarms. You've inadvertently provided an opportunity. So, you're not arresting me? I'm conscripting you. Your ship has an unusual energy signature that masks it from standard tracking. Your AI clearly has non-standard capabilities. And you, Captain Reynolds, have the perfect cover a human criminal with no official standing or connections to the archives. I'm not sure if I should be flattered or insulted. Both would be appropriate, Krill replied without humor. Here's my proposition. You help me investigate why the Council buried all knowledge of Earth, and I don't report your location to Central Security. Additionally, when this is concluded, your various outstanding warrants in Council space will vanish. Max considered his options, which weren't many. And if I say no? Krill smiled thinly. Then I regretfully perform my official duty, and you spend the rest of your considerably shortened life in a council detention facility. He's not bluffing, Pixel chimed in. His cardiovascular patterns indicate truthfulness, though I detect concerning levels of obsession regarding these Earth files. Fine. Max holstered his blaster. But we do this on my ship, not yours. Agreed. As Krill gathered his equipment, Max whispered to his communicator, Pixel, run a deep background check on our new friend. Something tells me Agent Krill isn't telling us everything. When do they ever? The AI responded. For the record, I calculate our survival probability has decreased by 62.4%. Just thought you'd want to know. Centauri Prime, with its gleaming spires and impossibly thin atmospheric bridges, was exactly the kind of place Max typically avoided. Too clean, too regulated, and crawling with Council security drones programmed to identify individuals with his particular career history. Remind me again why we're walking into the most heavily secured archive facility in the quadrant? Max grumbled, tugging uncomfortably at the formal archival assistant uniform Krill had provided. The collar was too tight, and the fabric had a strange property that seemed to amplify sweat. Krill, walking briskly ahead with his customary perfect posture, didn't bother turning around. Because, Captain, the Centauri Prime Archive is the only facility with physical copies of pre-digital Council records. If there's unaltered information about Earth, it will be here. And we couldn't just, I don't know, call ahead for an appointment? The moment we submit an official query about Earth-related documents, automated systems will flag it. We'd have special enforcement units waiting before we even reach the reception desk. Pixel's voice came through the nearly invisible earpiece Max wore. I've analyzed the archive's security protocols. You have approximately 37 minutes before the authentication codes Agent Krill borrowed from his supervisor expire. Also, there's an 82% probability that his supervisor is already aware of the unauthorized use. Comforting as always, Pixel, Max muttered. They approached the towering crystal and titanium structure of the Central Archive. At least 30 stories tall, it spiraled upward like a massive DNA helix, each level containing data storage systems from different eras of Council history. Remember your cover, Krill instructed as they neared the security checkpoint. Your archivist trainee, Max Reeve, recently transferred from the Orion branch. You speak only when addressed directly. So I'm basically furniture with legs. Got it. May. The Archivian shot him a warning glance as they stepped through the biometric scanner. Max held his breath, expecting alarms, but Krill's forged credentials held. They were waved through with minimal scrutiny. Once inside, they took a gravity lift to the 27th level physical records, pre-Council era. This section is rarely accessed, Krill explained, leading Max through the maze of shelving units that stretched in every direction. Most modern researchers rely on digital copies, but those can be altered. I need original documents. What exactly are we looking for? Initial contact records between humans and the Council species. The official narrative states humans were discovered on various colony worlds established by extinct precursor races. If Earth was deliberately hidden, the truth would be in the original first contact documents. After navigating through seemingly endless rows of ancient texts and data crystals, they reached a section marked Restricted Access, Level Omega Clearance Required. I assume you have Level Omega clearance? Max asked hopefully. No one has Level Omega clearance except Council Primarchs, Krill replied, producing a small device from one of his many pockets. But security systems from this era had certain vulnerabilities. As Krill worked on bypassing the security field, Max noticed something odd, a faint vibration coming from the floor, almost imperceptible but rhythmic. Krill, he whispered, I think. Not now, the Archivian hissed, concentrating on his work. The security field flickered and died. Krill allowed himself a small smile of satisfaction before stepping through. Hello there. chirped an enthusiastic voice from behind them. Both Max and Krill spun around to find themselves facing a small, purple-skinned humanoid with enormous spectacles and hair that seemed to defy gravity by standing straight up. She wore the casual robes of an independent researcher rather than archive staff. Fascinating approach to the security bypass, she continued, eyes sparkling with interest. Exploiting the quantum resonance fluctuation instead of attempting a standard code break. I'm impressed. This is a restricted area, Krill said stiffly. How did you get in here? Oh, I've been in here for 3 days, she replied cheerfully. I'm Professor Lumi Orion, xenoanthropology specialist. And you must be looking for the Earth files too. Max and Krill exchanged alarmed glances. Earth? Max tried to sound confused. The mythological human origin world? Why would the archives have restricted files on a myth? Professor Orion's smile widened. Please. I've dedicated my career to tracking references to Earth across galactic literature. The pattern of redaction is too consistent to be coincidental. And now an Archivian and a human walk into the most restricted section of records pertaining to human origins. Not exactly subtle. We should detain her, Krill murmured to Max. Or, Max countered, we could use another brain, especially one that's apparently been researching this longer than we have. I vote for option 2, Professor Orion chimed in, her large ears twitching. Especially since I've already found what you're looking for. She led them deeper into the restricted section, to a dusty corner containing what looked like primitive physical storage units' actual paper in protective cases. First contact records, she explained, reverently opening one case. The actual first contact, not the sanitized version taught in council education modules. According to these documents, humans weren't discovered on colony worlds at all. The Council encountered a human exploration vessel from Earth in the Proxima Centauri system. Krill carefully examined the documents, his expression growing increasingly troubled. This contradicts everything in the official records. It gets better, Professor Orion continued, pulling out another document. This is the original classification order for Earth, signed by the entire Council leadership of that era. Earth was classified as, and I quote, containment priority alpha, species of unprecedented hazard potential. Hazard potential? Max frowned. What did we do, blow up one of their ships? Not exactly, Professor Orion said, eyes widening as she read further. According to these notes, the Council was terrified by human creativity. Creativity, Max repeated flatly. We were quarantined because we're creative. Not just creative, Krill interjected, reading over her shoulder, and predictably creative. It says humans solve problems in ways that defy logical progression and established methodologies. The Council species operate on rational, predictable problem-solving approaches. Humans apparently don't. That's the most ridiculous. A loud alarm suddenly blared throughout the archives. Intruder alert in restricted section 27 Omega. Security teams deployed. And there goes our 37 minutes, Max sighed. Pixel, what's our exit strategy? Calculating optimal escape route, the AI replied. Though I feel compelled to mention that this scenario falls under my earlier completely screwed assessment. Went down. Max yelled, pulling Professor Orion behind a shelf as energy bolts sizzled overhead, leaving scorch marks on the ancient archive walls. Those are military-grade weapons. Krill shouted from his position behind a data terminal. Archive security doesn't use lethal force. Another volley of energy blasts reduced a priceless collection of pre-council star charts to ashes. Clearly someone forgot to mention that to them, Max replied, risking a quick peek around the corner. What he saw made his blood run cold. These weren't regular security guards, they wore the distinctive midnight blue armor of the Council's elite enforcement unit. Their helmets concealed any species identifiers, but their precision and coordination marked them as professionals. Enforcement Division, he whispered. Top-tier hunters. Someone really doesn't want us reading these files. Professor Orion clutched the documents they'd discovered. We need to preserve this evidence. It's the only proof that Earth exists and that the Council actively covered it up. Pixel's voice came through Max's earpiece. Captain, I've accessed the archive's internal security grid. I can create a diversion in Sector 19, but the enforcement team is using an isolated tactical network. I can't hack their communications. Do it, Max instructed, then turned to his companions. When the alarms redirect, we make for the service lifts on the east side. Krill nodded grimly. There's a maintenance tunnel that leads to the lower levels. We can exit through the waste processing system. Romantic and fragrant, Max quipped. You really know how to show a captain a good time. Moments later, alarms blared from the opposite side of the archive level. As predicted, half the enforcement team moved to investigate. Now, Max hissed. The three fugitives darted from their hiding place, racing through the towering shelves. They had almost reached the service area when a commanding voice rang out. Hold position or be terminated. Standing between them and escape was a tall figure in commander's armor. Helmet removed to reveal the severe features of a draconian reptilian humanoids known for their uncompromising efficiency. 4 enforcement officers flanked him, weapons trained on the group. Commander Drav, Krill breathed, recognition and fear evident in his voice. The draconian's vertical pupils narrowed. Agent Krill, your supervisor was most disappointed by your unauthorized access. The human and the Thylaxian are expected, but a betrayal from within the archives is rare. While Max sized up their opposition. 5 heavily armed enforcers against 3 unarmed researchers. Not great odds. Look, Max tried. Clearly there's been a misunderstanding. We're just doing some harmless historical research. Silence, human. Commander Drav cut him off. Your species' propensity for deception is well documented. All of you will surrender the stolen documents and submit to memory purging procedures. Professor Orion stepped forward, eyes flashing with academic fury. These aren't stolen documents. They're the factual history of human first contact. The Council has been lying about Earth for centuries. Commander Drav's expression remained impassive. The containment of Earth-related knowledge is sanctioned by Galactic Directive 001. Compliance is not optional. Why? Max demanded. What's so dangerous about humans knowing where they came from? Something like disdain flickered across the draconian's face. Your kind solves problems incorrectly. You introduce chaos into ordered systems. The quarantine of Earth was necessary for galactic stability. While they talked, Max had been subtly scanning their surroundings. The service area contained pressure regulation equipment for the archive's atmospheric systems. If he could only reach the control panel. Now surrender the documents, Commander Drav demanded, gesturing to his officers to advance. Pixel, Max whispered. On my mark, overload the atmospheric regulators. Captain, that would create an explosive decompression event, the AI warned. Just be ready to seal the emergency bulkheads behind us. Max locked eyes with Krill and Professor Orion, giving them the slightest nod. Then he turned back to Commander Drav with his most irritating grin. You know what's funny about humans, Commander? We really do solve problems incorrectly. In one swift motion, Max drew a small plasma torch from his boot and hurled it at the pressure regulation controls. Mark. Mark. The torch hit its target, causing a cascade of electrical failures. Warning klaxons blared as the atmospheric system began to fluctuate wildly. Hull breach imminent. Emergency protocols activated, announced the archive's AI. Commander Drav roared in anger as emergency bulkheads began slamming down. The enforcement team fired wildly, but the rapidly changing air pressure threw off their aim. Max grabbed Professor Orion's arm while Krill dived toward the maintenance tunnel. They slipped through the narrowing gap just as the bulkhead sealed behind them, separating them from their pursuers. That, Krill gasped as they crawled through the cramped tunnel, was precisely the kind of illogical, reckless human problem-solving that the Council fears. Max grinned. And yet it worked. Professor Orion clutched the precious documents. They'll be after us with everything they have now. We've confirmed that Earth exists, and that the Council actively suppressed this knowledge. The question is, why is human creativity so threatening? I don't know, Max replied grimly, but I think it's time we found out. As they emerged into the waste processing level, alarms still blaring throughout the facility, Max's communicator crackled. Captain, Pixel's voice came through. I've managed to secure access to the lucky mistake. It's been moved to impound level 3, but I've bypassed the security locks. If you can reach it, I can get us off-world. Then let's not waste time, Max said. I have a feeling this is just the beginning of our problems. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of cutting tools working on the emergency bulkhead. Commander Drav wasn't giving up easily. 3 days later, the lucky mistake drifted in the shadow of an abandoned mining outpost in the Kuiper belt of a forgotten star system. The ship's systems were running on minimal power to avoid detection, leaving the interior bathed in the dull red glow of emergency lighting. In the cramped common area, Max, Krill, and Professor Orion huddled around a makeshift research station assembled from the ship's spare parts and Lumi's portable analysis equipment. Scattered across the table were the precious physical documents they'd stolen from the archive, alongside data crystals containing the files Max had originally downloaded. This doesn't make sense, Max said, rubbing his tired eyes. According to these records, Earth wasn't just hidden, it was systematically erased from galactic memory. History books rewritten, databases purged, even genetic records altered to obscure humanity's single-planet origin. Krill nodded grimly. The level of coordination required for such a comprehensive information purge is unprecedented. This wasn't a standard classification, it was an existential response. But what were they so afraid of? Max wondered aloud. Professor Orion looked up from her analysis device. I think I found something. This report from the initial contact assessment team, it contains psychological evaluations of the first human explorers they encountered. She projected a holographic display that showed clinical observations of humans performing various problem-solving tasks. Look at the evaluator's notes, she pointed. Subject displays alarming tendency to employ unorthodox methodologies and solutions discovered through intuitive leaps rather than logical progression, suggesting dangerous neurological unpredictability. Max snorted. They make it sound like being creative is a disease. From their perspective, it might as well be, Krill said quietly. You have to understand, Captain, the Council civilization is built on predictability and incremental progress. Species join the galactic community only after demonstrating stable, rational development patterns over thousands of years. Humans skip steps, Professor Orion added. According to these records, most species take approximately 50,000 years to progress from agricultural civilization to space travel. Humans did it in less than 10,000, with explosive acceleration in the final centuries. Pixel's avatar flickered to life above the table. I've been analyzing the technical appendices of the Earth Containment Directive. There appears to be another factor at play. Humans have an unusual propensity for adapting technologies from other cultures and improving upon them in unexpected ways. So, Max shrugged. That's just good business sense. It terrified them, Krill realized, 4 hands simultaneously reaching for different documents. Look at these classified technology development timelines. Humans were projected to surpass Council technological sophistication within 3 generations if allowed unrestricted access to galactic knowledge. That still doesn't justify erasing an entire planet from history, Max argued. Professor Orion's large eyes suddenly widened. Unless, what if this isn't the first time? She frantically sorted through the documents, pulling out a faded chart that mapped technological development across multiple species. "Here," she exclaimed. "This classification matrix shows multiple rapid adaptation species throughout galactic history. All of them were subjected to containment protocols of varying severity." "Meaning humans aren't the first to be hidden away," Max concluded. "No, it's worse than that," Krill said, studying the chart. "These notations indicate that humans are the only such species that wasn't eliminated entirely." A heavy silence fell over the group. "So the Council has been selectively breeding the galaxy for docility," Max finally said, disgust evident in his voice. "Eliminating species that don't fit their orderly development model." "Not exactly breeding," Professor Orion corrected, "more like pruning. Maintaining galactic stability by removing unpredictable elements." Pixel's avatar pulsed thoughtfully. "I've completed analysis of the technical specifications in these documents. Captain, I believe I know why Earth was contained rather than eliminated." "Let's hear it." "Many technologies claimed by Council species as their own innovations appear to have been observed on Earth first, then appropriated. Earth was kept as a technological zoo, a source of innovation that could be harvested safely without allowing humans to develop independently." Max felt a cold anger building inside him. "So they've been stealing our ideas while feeding us lies about our origins. And restricting human expansion to controlled colonies," Krill added, "ensuring you never develop beyond certain parameters." The ship's proximity alarm suddenly blared. "Multiple vessels approaching," Pixel announced. "Signature matching confirms Council Enforcement Division. Commander Drav has found us." Max leapt to his feet. "How?" "We're running dark and I disabled all the standard tracking systems." "Unknown," the AI replied. "But they will be within weapons range in approximately 7 minutes. "We need to run," Krill said, already gathering the documents. "No," Max replied, a determined look crossing his face. "We've spent enough time running. I think it's time for some of that unpredictable human problem-solving they're so afraid of." The lucky mistake shuddered as another volley of energy weapons glanced off its failing shields. In the cockpit, Max executed a series of maneuvers that would have made a flight instructor have a stroke, narrowly avoiding the worst of the barrage. Shields at 17% and falling, Pixel reported with remarkable calm for an AI facing imminent destruction. "Commander Drav's flagship is moving to cut off our escape vector." "Tell me something I don't know," Max grunted, wrestling with the controls. Professor Orion clung to her seat, her purple complexion now several shades paler. "Is this really the time for your unpredictable human solution? Because it feels suspiciously like we're about to die." "Have a little faith, Professor," Max replied with a grin that was equal parts confidence and madness. "Krill, are we ready?" The Arcavian was hunched over the ship's communication array, all 4 hands working frantically. "Almost. The signal compressor is at maximum capacity. If this works, we'll have exactly 1 chance to broadcast before they shut us down." The ship lurched violently as a direct hit connected with their port engine. "Port thruster offline," Pixel announced. "At current damage rate, complete system failure in approximately 89 seconds. Max's hands flew across the controls. "That's 88 seconds more than we need." "Krill." "Ready. Ready." "Pixel, initiate Protocol Pandora." "Initiating Protocol Pandora," the AI confirmed. "Hijacking Council emergency broadcast frequencies. Breaking through security encryption." "Captain, I must note that this action is classified as a Class 1 offense against the Galactic Council, punishable by immediate atomization." "Add it to my tab," Max quipped, bringing the ship about in a suicidal charge directly toward Commander Drav's flagship. On the main view screen, the enforcement vessels scattered in confusion at the unexpected maneuver. "What are they doing?" came Commander Drav's voice over the intercepted communication channel. "Target their propulsion systems and prepare boarding teams." "Too late," Max muttered. "Now, Krill." The Archivian slammed all four hands down on the activation sequence. The Lucky Mistake's communication array glowed white-hot as it channeled every bit of remaining power into a single massive data pulse. Across the galaxy, on millions of worlds and space stations, communication systems suddenly activated. Personal devices, public announcement systems, government terminals, all simultaneously overridden by an emergency override frequency that hadn't been used in centuries. The faces of Max, Krill, and Professor Orion appeared on countless screens as their message broadcast in real time. "Citizens of the galaxy," Max began. "My name is Captain Max Reynolds. What you're about to hear may sound impossible, but we have proof. I am Agent Krill of the Galactic Archives. For centuries, the Council has hidden the truth about human origins. Earth, the human homeworld, exists and has been kept under quarantine by direct order of the Council leadership." Professor Orion held up the original documents to the camera. "These are the original classification orders. The Council has been systematically eliminating species they deem too unpredictable, too creative for their vision of an orderly galaxy. They've been stealing human innovations while keeping us ignorant of our true potential," Max continued. "Not just humans, dozens of species throughout history have been contained or eradicated for developing too quickly or too differently from the Council's approved patterns." As they spoke, Pixel transmitted the scanned documents, technical specifications, and classified orders to every connected device in Council space. On Commander Drav's flagship, alarms blared as communication officers frantically tried to shut down the broadcast. "Cut them off," Drav roared. "Destroy that ship immediately." But it was too late. The message was propagating through the galactic communication network, impossible to contain. On countless worlds, beings of all species were seeing the truth for the first time. "The coordinates of Earth are included in this transmission," Professor Orion stated clearly. "Along with the evidence of the Council's systematic suppression of innovation and independent development across multiple species." "You have been lied to," Krill said, his scholarly voice carrying the weight of truth. "The ordered progress you've been taught to value has been artificially maintained through elimination of alternatives." Max leaned forward, his expression intense. "We're not asking for revolution. We're demanding the right to know our own history, to develop according to our own nature. Earth and humanity aren't threats to galactic stability, fear of difference is." The transmission cut off as a direct hit rocked the Lucky Mistake, sending sparks cascading through the cockpit. "Critical system failure," Pixel reported. "Main power offline." The lights died, leaving only the glow of emergency backups. Through the viewports, they could see enforcement vessels closing in. "Well," Max sighed, slumping back in his seat, "I always figured I'd go out in a blaze of glory. Just hoped there'd be more emphasis on the glory part." To their surprise, the expected final barrage never came. Instead, Commander Drav's flagship suddenly powered down its weapons. "Captain Reynolds," the commander's voice came through on a direct channel, sounding oddly respectful. "I am instructed to inform you that the Council Primarchs request immediate consultation regarding your revelations." Max, Krill, and Professor Orion exchanged bewildered looks. "Request denied," Max replied boldly. "The time for secret meetings is over. If the Council wants to discuss this, they can do it in the open, with representatives from Earth present." There was a long pause before Drav responded. "Understood. Escort vessels will be provided to ensure your safe passage to the Council chambers. The coordinates for Earth have been acknowledged." As the communication ended, Professor Orion let out a laugh of disbelief. "It worked. They're actually backing down." "For now," Krill cautioned. "This is just the beginning of a very complicated political situation." Max grinned, patting the ship's console affectionately. That's the thing about unpredictable human problem solving, sometimes it actually works. Pixel's avatar flickered back to life as auxiliary power stabilized. Incoming transmissions from 47 independent worlds and 17 previously unknown resistance movements. It appears your broadcast has sparked considerable interest. I imagine it has, Max said thoughtfully. You know what this means, right? Road trip to Earth. The actual, honest-to-goodness birthplace of humanity. Professor Orion was practically bouncing with excitement. Think of the archaeological significance, the cultural implications. Think of the political chaos, Krill added dryly. The galaxy as we know it is about to change fundamentally. Max leaned back in his chair, hands behind his head. Well, as one apparently dangerous and unpredictable human, I'd say it's about damn time. Outside the viewport, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if the galaxy itself was awakening to new possibilities. Pixel, Max called out, plot a course for Earth. I think it's time humanity got reacquainted with home. As the lucky mistake limped alongside its unexpected honor guard of council vessels, messages continued to pour in from across the galaxy. Some expressed outrage, others celebration, but most simply reflected stunned disbelief as species everywhere processed the revelation that their orderly universe had been carefully curated through systematic deception. You realize we're probably going to be in history books now, Professor Orion mused, her large eyes sparkling with academic satisfaction. The beings who rewrote galactic history. Assuming we survive long enough to read those books, Krill muttered, though the usual edge in his voice had softened. The Council won't simply roll over because of one broadcast, no matter how widely distributed. Max swiveled his captain's chair, surveying his unlikely crew with newfound appreciation. Maybe not, but they can't stuff this particular plasma cat back into its containment field. Too many people know now. Too many questions being asked. Calculating arrival at Earth's coordinates in approximately 47 hours, Pixel announced. Also noting that my historical significance subroutines are experiencing unusual satisfaction. Is this what you organics call pride? Close enough, Max chuckled. You did good, Pixel. The communications console suddenly chimed with an incoming transmission priority 1 directly from the council chambers. Put it through, Max instructed, straightening his notoriously rumpled jacket in a half-hearted attempt at diplomacy. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing not the stern face of a council enforcer but a human woman in formal diplomatic attire. Her expression was a complex mixture of excitement and carefully contained emotion. Captain Reynolds, I'm Ambassador Chen of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. On behalf of everyone here, thank you. Max blinked in confusion. Earth Diplomatic Corps? You mean there are humans on Earth who knew about this all along? The ambassador nodded. A small contingent has always maintained relations with the Council under strict containment protocols. We've been working for centuries to change the classification status, but progress has been glacial. So Earth isn't uninhabited? Professor Orion asked, academic curiosity overriding protocol as she pushed into view. Far from it. 8 billion humans live here, though most believe they're isolated in the universe. Your broadcast has changed everything. The Council has agreed to open negotiations for Earth's full integration into galactic society. Krill leaned forward. Ambassador, as an Archivian, I must ask what other historical truths have been suppressed. The ambassador's expression turned solemn. More than I can share in one transmission. But you've started something that can't be stopped. The Council's monopoly on historical truth is broken. And Commander Drav? Max asked. Last I checked, he was pretty committed to atomizing us. A small smile crossed Ambassador Chen's face. Let's just say certain enforcement officers are experiencing a rapid reevaluation of priorities. Your escort will bring you safely to Earth. There are a lot of people very eager to meet the crew who broke the quarantine. As the transmission ended, a stunned silence filled the cockpit. "Well," Max finally said, leaning back in his chair, "I was looking to retire somewhere nice. Earth sounds as good a place as any." "Retirement?" Professor Orion scoffed. "This is just the beginning. Think of all the suppressed histories waiting to be uncovered, all the species who might not even know their true origins." "She's right," Krill agreed, surprising himself. "What we've uncovered suggests a pattern spanning thousands of years. The work of exposing the full truth could take lifetimes." Max groaned theatrically. "You're talking about a career change from smuggler to what historical revolutionary?" "History's troublemakers," Pixel suggested helpfully, "has a certain ring to it." Through the viewport, the stars streamed by as the battered cargo ship continued its journey toward the planet that humanity had never truly left behind. Whatever awaited them there, celebration or complication, probably both, one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be quite so orderly again. And as the first images of Earth beautiful, blue, and very much real appeared on their view screen, Max decided he could live with that. "History's troublemakers," he repeated thoughtfully, a smile spreading across his face. "I like the sound of that.